on, everyone? Casey here, Virginia Game Day, checking in with an exciting episode. This is post-week one. Hoos are off to a 1-0 start, and we got a lot to talk about today. I'm Casey Pizzalia, as always. Thanks for supporting the podcast, the Instagram account, the newsletter, which some folks have subscribed to. That's pretty cool. That's virginiagameday.com for those who want to subscribe moving forward. I thought the last episode we did was really cool. The crystal ball deal with the Harry Potter music in the background, and my lovely wife and assistant Victoria helped out with that one. So I brought her along again.
Hey guys.
To help with this new season. We're gonna do some stuff from the first game and also get to some ACC stuff from the first week and look at next week. So that's how we're going to roll with this show, I think. Start with the UVA game. Nothing too crazy. There are a lot of reaction podcasts out there and reviews. Ball Hawk has a great one. It's like an hour long. We're going to do 10 minutes on the game itself, maybe 15. I can talk sometimes. And then we'll go through the ACC in the first week and then week 2 ACC games. So let's start off with UVA's 34-17 win over Richmond.
All right. So what stuck out to you?
In a good way?
In a good way.
Okay.
Yeah. What'd you see on the field that you liked? What's promising?
Okay. So I think the first thing, and you know how I know it's good, is when you talk about it.
Oh.
And P. Paris Jones, the baller. P. had a great game. I see all these articles. He waited so long to walk on, fighting. It's a great story. It's, an American story. Yeah, he earned a spot doing the gritty stuff, taking on blitzers, catching balls out of the backfield. And that boy runs hard. So that was one of the most exciting things to see. Ran for a touchdown, caught a touchdown, 19 carries, 104 yards. And to a bigger degree, they committed to the run. This new staff committed to the run past last year. That wasn't a single back wasn't getting 19 carries last year. Continuing with the rushing game, BA looked like 100% guy. He wasn't like a huge running threat last year, not as much as we saw in 2020. I feel he's back 100%. He can tote the rock as much as they need him to, and if he's called on, he can do that. I feel like they weren't trying to have him do that last year. Injuries, this, that. Running wasn't really part of their repertoire.
Brendan broke a record.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Good point. She's the best, isn't she? All-time yards leader in UVA history, past Bryce Perkins, who did it in 2 years, mind you. So big shouts to Perk, now the backup for the Los Angeles Rams, to Matthew Stafford. He'll get a shot. That boy can play. He's going to get himself a shot. I don't know if it's with the Rams or not, but he's going to get it somewhere. What else? Okay, so that was exciting on offense. What stuck out to me on defense? Josh Ahern. I mean, that's what everyone's saying. He didn't play the first half, came in the second half, immediate impact guy, picked the ball off, that got called back by penalty, made back-to-back stops on 3rd and 1, 4th and 1, brought the energy of like football player. You look up like football player, kind of like prototypical crazy white linebacker from, every football movie on the planet. Josh Ahern, straight out of Central Casting. Love the way he played. Maniac, gonna have a great year. I feel a lot better about Virginia's defense knowing that my man Josh Ahern is one of the linebackers. Antonio Clary, all over the place, flying all over the place. The secondary last year they got a lot of gruff, I would say, a lot of guff. They got a lot of guff last year, and rightfully so. This is the guy who's been around, but every time I look up, number 0 is doing big things, making stops, flying all over. Letting Richmond know he's there, and I thought he deserved a big shout out there. There was a lot to be happy about on the field.
Any bummers? Any things you weren't as excited to see unfold?
I think a lot of people were talking about the defensive line. It was kind of one of the talking points going into the season. Deep going to be one of the strengths of the team. And not that I was disappointed by it, but it was just like they weren't as eye-popping as maybe some people thought they were going to be. Now, they played Richmond, right? And in Ballhawks review podcast, he made it clear that they were very vanilla. They didn't throw the kitchen sink. They weren't bringing big blitzes. They just kind of let their front four go to work and rush the passer. They did have 2 sacks, but they weren't throwing all sorts of complicated things at Richmond that may have made the defensive line made the defensive front look a lot better. So, what does that say to me? Someone who's not an X and O football coach, it's going to get better. We're going to be able to bring more pressure, whether it be this week against Illinois or when the ACC comes. From what I've heard, this still is one of the strengths of our team, and they look good. I mean, those orange uniforms, damn, defense looked a lot better. Looked confident. Like the defense looked super confident, and yeah, they gave up 17 points to Richmond, but I think the defense was still probably outshined the offense a little bit in the first week.
Other than the uniforms off the field, what else made you happy?
The Wahoo Walk.
Oh,
so I saw videos of the Wahoo Walk, and it's like, damn, it's a real college football team. You see commercials for the ACC Network, SEC Network, Big Ten, blah blah blah. You always see the guys in the suits walking to the game, fans high five and da 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 da. Now we have that. So that's really cool. Can't wait to see it in person. The post game, good old song in front of the student body. It wasn't like a million people, but it's the first time they did it. It will grow and it will turn into a tradition that sticks, I hope, and hopefully win a bunch of games at home, and we get to have a million students there.
In the post game, Tony Elliott was talking about how he had a I don't think he called a timeout for it, but he had to get the guys together, and he's like, "Oh, I need you guys to celebrate your win, celebrate your victories." Like he made a note to say the energy just wasn't what I needed it to be, and he actually called them in and huddled them in. It's like, yeah, when you see somebody grinding for that extra yard or 2 yards, like that's something we cheer about. And someone had like that's so great,
a 3-yard run where they like carried a bunch of people with them, and they're like, you gotta like don't take that 3-yard play for granted.
Yeah, you can tell that the culture is good.
Culture is good.
Yeah,
that was the next thing. Seeing it's just something fun about it, right? So they have Chris Long posted it. You have they hold up the play signs to kind of signal them in from the sidelines, and one of them was Chris Long. There's a famous picture of him like in a gas station in like a disguise, and they just interviewed him on CBS 19 or whatever as just some random guy in Charlottesville, and it was actually Chris Long. So they've had one of those. He was on one of the play calling signs. So it was just a fun vibe. The orange uniforms, fun play calling stuff. The Wahoo Walk, Tony Elliott hold people accountable, excitement. Looks like things are in the right hands. And besides that, it's just good to have the team back, right? Like sometimes we take it for granted. We have a team, a national brand that plays in the city we live in, the area we live in. There are people all over the country who don't have that option. The closest sporting, major sporting event is hours away, sometimes states away, and we have it right in our backyard. We see it around town, sabers everywhere, lawn flags up on the street. We're in Charlottesville right now. I got a flag up. There's like on my street, there's like 5, 6 flags. It's so cool, and it's just happy that the football team's back. There's a place to go on Saturday. It changes the city. I wish we'd even. That's something I'll talk about next. I wish we could shut the city down on Saturdays. That might. We'll talk about that next.
Letter grade would you give? First game performance. We won.
First game performance. A B. One thing that I was like, you see the first half, right? You see a view of the hill packed with students, and then you see the second half, and there's literally like 7 people on the hill. So we were up 28-7 at halftime, and I thought we had it in the bag, and everyone dipped out. But then the second half, it's kind of like a mirror image of the team, right? Team played great in the first half. Second half, thought we had it in the bag. A little bit of a struggle in the second half. So I wish that we could just shut the city down and make everyone go to Scott Stadium on Saturdays when there's a home game I couldn't make it. I had to work, but if it was like ingrained in the culture more, and stores weren't open on Saturdays when there's home games, maybe more people will be able to get out to the stadium. I was looking in Jerry Ratcliffe's big UVA history book. Man, so many pictures I'm looking at, and the bowl is full, the bottom bowl and the upper bowl, and I hope that is coming once again. Coach Tony Elliott challenged the fans after the game in his post-game presser, and that's what I'm saying, is holding people accountable, holding the fans accountable, holding the fan base accountable, me included. I got to work on Saturday, bro. Get to the game. I hear it, but I think we're headed in the right direction.
Okay.
Before we get to the ACC stuff, let me make this clear. Virginia college football went to work in week 1. UVA, double-digit win against Richmond. William & Mary, an FCS school, beat an FBS school, smoked them actually by 20 points, beat Charlotte. One cool thing to note about William & Mary, Cam Newton's brother is a wide receiver for them, Kalen Newton. He used to be the quarterback at Howard and then played at Auburn, and now he's at William & Mary, reuniting with his old Howard coach, Mike London. But yeah, William & Mary won. Liberty won in double overtime. The only team that lost was Virginia Tech. So just something to note from the first week of college football action. All right.
Week 1.
Week 1. Week 1, we're going to run through the games. This is our scoreboard. Games described in 4 words or less. You've seen it maybe on Colin Coward's show. He does the 3-word game. I like it. First games. Good for the league. Pittsburgh beat West Virginia. Florida State beat LSU. Those are huge wins for the ACC. As you know, the SEC, Big Ten are all the talk right now. It's like the big two, but ACC is like a little distant third. Well, we went out, beat LSU, went out, beat West Virginia on a primetime game with everyone watching. That was like both great football games and great wins for the conference. Next up, home dogs going bark. Syracuse at home in the Dome was an underdog to Louisville. Beat them down. Syracuse won 31-7. Yep, Sean Tucker starting his Heisman campaign. Robert and I, formerly of UVA, Dr. Bob, put together a nice game plan. The defense is a whole bunch of studs. Getting points at home in the ACC. That's they felt disrespected, and they showed that. Next up, need to see more. Clemson 41, Georgia Tech 10. Wake Forest 44, VMI 10. Yes, good wins. Both covered the big old spreads, but DJU looked rough for at least a quarter, maybe a quarter more. And then I started texting people. I'm like, yo, this, I don't know, he might back us about to come in. He got it together, put a couple of drives in, but Georgia Tech, we know, down. Don't have a lot of players returning from last year's team. So, yeah, need to see more from Clemson to kind of give them a full assessment. I think they got college football playoff hopes, and they could definitely get there, but DJU's got to be better for the whole game. They got players, man. They got Will Shipley's a baller, the defense up front, great talent all over. Got to get, they got to push the ball down the field, and DJU's got to be the one to do that. Wake Forest, new quarterback in. Sam Hartman's got a medical thing. Mitch Griffiths is now the quarterback at Wake Forest. I covered him in high school up in Northern Virginia, and he's a good player. And they put it on VMI, but again, hard to really take a lot from a VMI team that's had a lot of turnover. And Sam Hartman might be back this week. Yep, saw that coming is the next grouping. North Carolina went to App State. NC State played at East Carolina. And Virginia Tech went to ODU. I tweeted out, I don't know how many weeks ago, about this specific this specific group of games that I said they're going to go 1 and 2, or someone's definitely going to lose. Well, it happened. Tech lost to ODU. Going on the road in state, cool. Go on the road in state. It's good for football and all that. And it's, for the smaller teams that they went to see, it's like the Super Bowl in their cities. But you put yourself at risk by doing that. Virginia Tech paid the price, losing to ODU. NC State, preseason player of the year at quarterback, went in and barely escaped ECU. ECU's a sleeper team. Holden Ayler's been around for a long time. Duke and Ball, he's a vet, a real vet. And they were a couple kicks away from losing that game. Like, watch the highlights. They were a couple kicks away from losing to ECU. All respect to ECU. When they're good, that football town is great. North Carolina, shootout with App State, 63-61.
Did you expect that?
No. When we were down in North Carolina, everyone was like, best football atmosphere in the state, App State. It's a football town, and they fired the DC from last year and brought in Gene Chizik, former national championship winning coach at Auburn. He'd been on TV for the last 5 years. He hasn't coached since like 2015. Brought him in, and my man led the defense that allowed 61 points to Appalachian State. So rough look for him. Next grouping. New Era. Who dis? Duke 30-0 against Temple. Temple was a proud program not too long ago. They are currently a dumpster fire, and it's sad to see but good for Duke, man. They might win 2 or 3 games this year, or that could be their only win. But if you look in the media guide now, Elko is the program leader for winning percentage because he's now 1-0 in Duke history, as is Tony Elliott from Virginia. The Elliott Era is 1-0. So of all the great coaches they've had, Bronco Mendenhall, George Welsh, Tony Elliott is now the leader in win percentage in program history. And then Mario Cristobal as well. Miami won 70-13. So all those new coaches are 1-0, undefeated at their respective schools. What's next? Oh, the last one, the last ACC game of week 1. Ouch, my foot hurts because Boston College literally shot themselves in the foot, gave the game away. At the start of the fourth quarter, they had an 84% chance to beat Rutgers per ESPN, and they gave the game away. Turnovers, botched snaps in their own territory. It was rough to see. Credit Rutgers, who hired Greg Schiano back a few years ago, and he's kind of building that program up. But, man, all game long, you thought Boston College had it in the bag. Rutgers really doesn't have a quarterback to speak of, and it had a tough time moving the ball through the air. And meanwhile, Boston College has one of the best quarterbacks in the nation from a pure talent perspective. Phil Dracovic is going to play in the pros, and he's got a cannon. It's fun to just watch him back there throwing it around. But yeah, tough loss for Boston College, but they'll win a few games this year. They like Rutgers. They're a team also on the rise.
Okay, now we're into week 2.
Yeah.
What's coming up?
Lots of games. Good ones. Louisville is on Friday at UCF. Louisville coming off that loss against Syracuse on the road as favorites, got their doors blown off. Scott Satterfield, his seat is super duper hot. This might be his last season. So that's Friday night. All right. Into Saturday, Virginia traveling to Illinois. Illinois is a 4.5-point favorite. Listen, we beat Illinois by a ton last year, 30 points. But they had their backup quarterback in. It was on our turf this year. They've upgraded the quarterback position, brought in Tommy DeVito, a former 4-star recruit from Syracuse. He's had flashes of greatness. It's on their turf. I'm sure they're going to be looking for retribution. Tough team. In my crystal ball episode, I picked this as a loss, but I'm still hoping we pull the upset on the road against Illinois. Southern Miss at Miami. Miami's a 26-point favorite. Listen, they look good. They weren't really playing anyone in the first week. This is a little bit of an upgraded opponent. I don't think they're going to win by 60. Wake Forest minus 9.5 at Vandy. When I was real young, I would always get Wake Forest and Vandy confused, and I'm sure there's people out there listening to this that say the same thing. They're both college football teams, and they're both black and gold, and they're both not the best in their conference, and historically, and yeah, so cool to see them play each other. But Wake is a favorite on the road with Mitch Griffiths. Vandy, keep in mind, has Nick Howell as their defensive coordinator, formerly of Virginia, and he was the architect of last year's Virginia defense. So take that for what it's worth. Duke at Northwestern. The battle of, is there a name for this? The Brain Bowl or something like that? Two great academic schools. Duke, the second game of Mike Elko's career in Durham, heading up to Evanston to play Northwestern. I always like watching Northwestern football for whatever reason. It's just they're an underdog, kind of similar to Duke. They're kind of an underdog in their conference. Put together some decent seasons. Just getting to a bowl is a big deal for them. So they're off to a 1-0 start too. They beat Nebraska in Ireland. So yeah, I'm excited to see that game. North Carolina, fresh off their shootout at App State, will be playing their third game of the season already. -7.5 at Georgia State. Tar Heels going on the road, taking the tour of the South this season. So Tar Heels -7.5. Tennessee 7-point favorites at Pitt. So hey, Pitt played a exciting nationally televised game against West Virginia in the backyard brawl. Welcome in Tennessee to their field in week 2. So that's going to be another game that people are going to want to keep their eyes on because hey, Pittsburgh gets a win against an SEC school. That's great for the brand. It would be awesome. Syracuse -23 at UConn. UConn, one of the worst teams in the country, but they hired a new coach. Jim Mora hired a new coach, Jim Mora, former college NFL guy, trying to resurrect that program. I don't know how well he's going to do on the recruiting trail, but they can only go up from where they've been in the last few years. Boston College at Virginia Tech, so an ACC matchup here. Tech is 3.5-point favorites, trying to right the wrongs that happened in the ODU game. And then there's 3 games that don't have lines. They are Furman at Clemson. So, Furman, there's some connections to our program. Tony Elliott and Des Kitchens both coached at Furman, and I think our assistant strength coach as well. Charleston Southern at NC State. I feel bad for Charleston Southern because the way that NC State, as close as that was versus ECU, that's a team that has the ability to go and hang points on people, and they're going to be out to prove that was a fluke in week 1. And then Western Carolina at Georgia Tech. None of those games have lines. This could be one of the only games Georgia Tech wins this season. But hey, look out for Western Carolina. You never know. Thank you guys for checking us out. If you want to, I'd appreciate it. Subscribe on the platforms. Leave a review. On Spotify, you can leave a 5-star review. On Apple, you can leave a 5-star review. Or 4, whatever. What do you think? Whatever you think of the show. I'm not just the more reviews, the better. And yeah, at Virginia Game Day on Instagram. It's Lackey Brown Media on YouTube. That's where all of our content is housed. There's a whole playlist for Virginia Game Day for these videos. And yeah, VirginiaGameDay.com for our newsletter. So thank you so much. Appreciate it. All love. Go Hoos.
We'll see you next time.